Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today we are talking about palm and palmar spaces, and our objective is we are going to discuss the structural arrangement of the palm. We start with the palmar aspect of the hand covered by our skin, and we see here we see different lines present in the skin at the level of the palm as well as at the level of fingers. So in common words we name them as skin creases, and we also name them as flexure lines because when we make the face our hand moves on these lines. That's why the continuous movement of the hand on making the face keep deeper these lines, and we name them as flexure lines because flexion of the palm taking place on these lines. So where we have the joints between the phalanges known as interphalangeal joints, so we have creases, and these creases are known as distal, middle and proximal interphalangeal creases depending upon their location. So this is distal interphalangeal crease, middle interphalangeal crease and proximal interphalangeal crease. Now on the palm we have distal transverse crease, proximal transverse crease, and then toward the base of the thumb we have radial longitudinal crease, as well as in the thumb also we have interphalangeal crease, and we also have a crease at the base of the thumb which is metacarpophalangeal joint crease. And as we have discussed that these are the points of the creases where we flex our hand. Regarding the number of digits, every finger has 3 digits: distal, middle and proximal. Thumb has only 2, proximal and distal. And we count the number of fingers from the lateral side. So thumb is the first, index is the second, middle finger is the third, ring finger is the fourth, and little finger is the fifth. So you have to keep in mind the number of the fingers. Now we see here from the center of the palm, it is a concave area as compared to its medial side as well as its lateral side. The lateral projection or convexity of the palm is known as thenar eminence, this one, and medial convexity is known as hypothenar eminence. And in the center, we have the concavity of the palm. So here also we can see the radius and ulnar lower end. Then we can see the proximal and distal row of the carpal bones, the metacarpal bones, and the phalanges of the thumb, index finger, and the rest of the fingers. So here we have 3 as proximal, middle, and distal. This one is distal, middle, and proximal. And here we have only distal as well as proximal. The joint between them is known as interphalangeal joints, and the joint between metacarpal and the phalanges are known as metacarpophalangeal joints. These are metacarpophalangeal joints which are condylite type of joints, and interphalangeal joints are the type of hinge variety, just like our elbow joint. So two movements are taking place on the joint, flexion as well as extension on interphalangeal joints, and four movements: flexion, extension, abduction and adduction is taking place at metacarpophalangeal joints, and in detail we will discuss later on. Already we have discussed this, just a review. We have four proximal row of carpal bones: scaphoid, lunate, tracheotomy and pisiform, from lateral to medial, and trapezium, trapezoid, capitate and hamate. The distal row is in direct contact with the metacarpal bones, and they make the joint which is known as carpo-metacarpal joint. So this is carpo-metacarpal joint, and then the metacarpal bones unite with the proximal phalanges and form metacarpophalangeal joints, which are condylite type of joints, and then interphalangeal joints between the phalanges. These are hinge type of joints. This is the palmar, and this is the dorsal of the bones of hand. Already you have discussed. This diagram already we have discussed, just a repetition that we have this inferior radioulnar joint, this is this joint, and then we have intercarpal articulation or mid-carpal joint between the distal as well as the proximal bone. And then we have carpo-metacarpal articulation. So when we remove the skin of our hand, what we will see, the skin is firmly adherent to the underlying structures. Why it is so firmly adherent as compared to the dorsal aspect? If you see, you can easily pinch off the dorsal surface of the hand, but you cannot do it on the palmar aspect because the palmar skin is thick as compared to the dorsal aspect, plus it is firmly adherent to the underlying structures. So when we remove the skin, what we are seeing? We are seeing the tendon of palmaris longus, which is the anterior compartment muscle of forearm. We can see the flexor retinaculum. This palmaris longus tendon is attaching to the flexor retinaculum, and as it is moving forward, it is expanding triangular band that is known as palmar aponeurosis. This is palmar aponeurosis. We see some group of muscles which we are going to discuss later, and we see a small superficial muscle which is known as palmaris brevis, which is connecting to the palmar aponeurosis on medial side and lateral side on the underlying skin. If we remove, so when we remove the palmaris brevis muscle, we can see some group of muscles present underlying. So that we are going to discuss later on. So what we have discussed is that we have, after removing the skin, the palmaris longus tendon moving forward toward the skin and expanding into a triangular band. And if we see the triangular band aponeurosis has four slips or bands which are going towards four fingers and attaching to the bases of the fingers over here. So that is known as palmar aponeurosis. Here is a schematic diagram showing the palmar's longest tendon is expanding in the palm and giving slips to the digits or the bands which are known as pretendinous bands towards the bases of the fingers. Also we see the natatory ligaments which we are going to discuss later on. So here we can see the palmar's longest tendon from the anterior compartment of forearm moving forward, passing flexor retinaculum and expanding into a triangular band and giving slips to the four fingers. This is known as palmar aponeurosis. So the major function of this aponeurosis is that it keeps the underlying structure in position and it helps in powerful gripping. Here we can see also the bands of palmar aponeurosis, thenar fascia and hypothenar fascia. So the muscles of this area are known as thenar muscles and the muscles of this area are known as hypothenar muscles. The elevations already we have discussed as thenar eminence and hypothenar eminence, and these eminences are, or the muscles are covered by a thin layer of fascia which is known as thenar fascia on the lateral side and hypothenar fascia on the medial side. And as these facial slips or palmar aponeurotic slips are moving forward, they are going toward the bases of the fingers. And if we take a section of the finger at this level, what you can see in the phalanx, because that is the proximal level. So we can see the proximal phalanx, and on the back we can see a tensor expansion that we will see in the dorsal pictures. Then we can see the flexor digitorum tendon, and it is covered by a synovial sheath. And also we can see the two tendons of flexor digitorum superficialis on the lateral side and flexor digitorum profundus on the center, and they are covered by a synovial sheath. And then you can see the fatty tissue in the area of skin. So what we were talking about palmar aponeurosis, if the fourth and fifth bands of palmar aponeurosis have fibrosis, or if they become nodular and contracted, so what will happen, the two fingers will be in flex position, the fourth one and the fifth one. So why this happened? When the palmar aponeurosis medial slips have nodules and they become fibrotic and thickened, so they will little bit shorter, and as they become shorter they will flex these fingers, which are the fourth and fifth fingers, and this condition is known as depreference contracture. Here you can see the rest of the two fingers are okay, but the middle two fingers are contracted. Why they are contracted or they flex? Because the palmar aponeurotic bands over here, they are nodular and fibrotic and thickened. So because of their shortening, this thing is happening, which is known as depreference contracture. So after that, when we remove the palmar aponeurosis, you can see we cut from here the palmar aponeurosis from the palmar strongest tendon, and we reflect it. So what we see now, we see the tendons of the long flexors which are coming from the anterior compartment of the forearm. Along with that, we can see the muscles of the thenar side as well as the hypothenar. So after removing the palmar aponeurosis, we can see thenar eminent muscles, hypothenar eminent muscles, as well as the long flexor tendons which are present below the palmar aponeurosis. There are four muscles you have already discussed, the thenar eminence muscles, so we just give their names. Abductor pollicis muscle, which is abductor pollicis having two heads, transverse and oblique, so it is abductor pollicis. Then flexor pollicis brevis, then abductor pollicis brevis, and then opponens pollicis. So these are the four muscles which are going toward the thumb. They are forming the eminence, which is known as thenar eminence. And these are the muscles: abductor pollicis, flexor pollicis brevis, abductor pollicis brevis, and opponens pollicis. On the other side, as we have discussed, when we remove the palmar brevis muscle, we can see the muscles which are opponens digiti minimi, flexor digiti minimi brevis, and abductor digiti minimi. So digiti minimi means they are going towards the little fingers. So all the muscles are going towards the little fingers, so they are known as digiti minimi. So opponens digiti minimi, flexor digiti minimi, abductor digiti minimi. So after removing palmar aponeurosis, we can see these eminences which are formed by the muscles. Along with that, what we can see the long flexor tendons. Long flexor tendons of flexor digitorum superficialis. When we cut them, we can see down or below to them is flexor digitorum profundus tendons. So here we have flexor retinaculum, and then we have thenar muscles as well as hypothenar muscles. The hypothenar are all digiti minimi and thenar all are pollicis going towards the thumb, and their first names indicating their functions. Here we can see the palmar brevis Hypothenar muscle, flexor reticulum, palmaris longus. Then we can see the palmar aponeurosis, and these bands are connected together by transverse fibers of the same aponeurosis known as transverse fibers of palmar aponeurosis, and on the other side the longitudinal bands are known as longitudinal fiber of palmar aponeurosis. On the lateral side, if we see a depression at the base of the thumb. That depression is known as anatomical snub box, and that is bounded by extensor pollicis longus, and on the other side by extensor pollicis brevis and abductor pollicis longus. And this area is known as anatomical snub box. It is important because the radial artery is passing through this area, and also below that we have the bone, which is the first carpal bone, that is scaphoid, lying over here. And other thing, this is known as anatomical as bone because normally when we extend our palm, what happens, there is a depression formed in this area, and the people who are using drugs or some type of heroin, they put drugs in this space and then they sniff. That's why it is known as anatomical snuff box. So just a look of different type of movements of the hand. This type of movement is known as power grip. When you hold something in the hand, just like to making a fist, that is known as the power grip. Then a hook grip, if you have what we say, take a bag, so you make a hook like grip, that is known as a hook grip. For handling a pencil, this type of grip is known as precision handling grip. To hold a coin, again a precision grip, and if you hold a coin or something rounded, that is you are handling that thing between the finger tips, so that is finger tip pinch. And this is the position of hand at rest, and then you can see the difference between the loose grip as well as the firm grip. So these are the different type of positions of the hand. So what we have seen, the long flexor tendons, superficial as well as deep. So if we remove the long flexor tendons which are superficial, as you can see here, these long flexor tendons which are coming across from all the way here, we remove them, and now we can see deeply the other tendons which are known as flexor digitorum profundus muscle tendons. And from these muscle tendons, the muscles are arising. These muscles, already you have talked about muscles of hand, they are known as lumbricals. So these are the muscles which are present along with the long flexor tendons. So they are present almost at the same place or same place. So here we can repeat it again. The most outer area is skin. Then we have palmar aponeurosis. Then we have flexor digitorum superficialis tendons in the center, along with flexor digitorum and profundus tendons below that. And on the lateral medial side we have thenar and hypothenar eminences. So on long flexor tendons lateral side we have region of the muscle which are known as lumbricals. So they are present also the same side or same place. Now after removing the long flexor tendons, superficial as well as deep and lumbricals, now you will see the muscles which are known as interossei. Inter means between, ossei means bone. Between the bones we have the muscles. So these are the most deeper portion of the hand where we have the metacarpal bones, and from the side of the metacarpal bone the muscles are arising. Four muscles are arising on the palmar side, so we name them as palmar interossei, and four muscles are arising from the dorsal side of the metacarpal bones. We name them as dorsal interossei. So that is the most, we can say, the most central part or deepest part of the palm, which where we have interossei muscles. And as already you have discussed this, that the third finger, which is the middle finger, is the finger which is the axis of the movements or central area along over this side, or we can say along this, we have the movements of adduction and abduction. So adduction and abduction of occurs of index finger as well as ring and little finger, but this middle finger mostly in its position. So that is the axis of the movement of abduction and adduction of the fingers. So if you are opening your fingers, then that is known as abduction, and when you are adding your fingers or keeping all of them together, then it is known as adduction. So in adduction, you will keep your fingers towards the middle finger, near the middle finger, and if you take them away from the middle finger, that will be the abduction. So dorsal interossei are responsible for abduction, and palmar interossei are responsible for adduction. So formula already you have discussed, that is known as PAD and DAB. DAB for dorsal and AB for abduction, DAB DAB. So dorsal for abduction and PAD PAD, P for palmar interossei and AD for adduction, PAD for adduction. So here you can see the dorsal interossei or movement in DAB is for the abduction of the fingers. Movement fingers are moving apart, and when they come close together, then it will be adduction from the palmar interossei. Now we have just discussed some structures which are present superficial to deep. Once again I will repeat: skin, after skin palmar aponeurosis, after palmar aponeurosis we have long flexor tendons, flexor digitorum superficialis, below to flexor digitorum superficialis is flexor digitorum profundus, below to flexor digitorum profundus tendon we have, or along with them on the side we have lumbricals, and below lumbricals we have dorsal and palmar interossei with the carpal bones. So now in this diagram what we are seeing that every muscle tendon is enclosed in synovial sheaths. So as we have discussed also in synovial joint, that these synovial sheaths are not only providing lubricating material for the joint, but also they are secreting synovial fluid, which is acting as a mobile oil for our joints or lubricant for our joints. So same is here, that because we have to move a lot, so to minimize the friction along the tendons, these tendons are covered by synovial sheaths. So the long flexor tendons have their synovial sheaths, and outside to long flexor tendon synovial sheaths we have fibrous or connective tissue covering, which are known as fibrous digital sheaths. So these tendons have two coverings. The outer covering is a connective tissue covering, which is known as fibrous digital sheaths, this one. And when you remove this fibrous digital sheath, below that you can see the synovial sheaths, which are enclosing the tendons, and they are responsible for minimizing the friction, as well as the fibrous digital sheaths are responsible for keeping the tendons in their position. And also you can see these four flexor tendons on the back, they are superficial as well as the deep tendon, they are covered by single synovial sheath. And in between these phalanges at the metacarpophalangeal joints, there are palmar as well as deep transverse metacarpal ligaments present. So what we see already, we have discussed in the previous lecture regarding the flexor digitorum superficialis and deep. So flexor digitorum superficialis muscle, as you can see, it up reaching around flexor vertebroculum, dividing into four slips for the lateral four fingers, and these slips are moving forward. As they reach to the proximal phalanges, they split into two and they move forward, and then they attach to the side of the middle phalanges. And just below them is the muscle, which tendon, which is known as flexor digitorum profundus, which is running along the way. So you can see flexor digitorum profundus tendons, and you can see the flexor digitorum superficialis tendons. So these flexor digitorum profundus tendons are moving and passing right away below the flexor superficialis tendon, and between this gap, where the superficialis is splitting, these tendons are coming up and then getting insertion into the distal phalanx. That is flexor digitorum profundus tendon attachment. So we have little bit talked about in the previous lecture, but in this lecture you can easily understand their attachment. that superficialis reaches to the proximal phalanx dividing into two slits, and they move laterally and attach to the middle phalanx, and below that the flexor digitum profundus tendon pass between these slits and move forward and reaches to the base of the distal phalanx. So if we take a section of the palm or a transverse section of the palm, what we will see, this is the palmar aspect, so this is the palmar skin, below is the palmar aponeurosis. Below palmar aponeurosis we have talked about, this is hypothenar fascia and hypothenar muscles. This is thenar fascia and thenar muscles. These are the metacarpal bones because we have taken the section at the level of metacarpal bones, first, second, third, fourth and fifth metacarpal. In between them you can see the infoscia. These are the infoscia muscles. And then you can see the dorsal expansion or dorsal fascia in the dorsal side and then dorsal skin. So between the thenar as well as the infoscia we have a muscle which is adductor pollicis. So just below the palmar aponeurosis, as we have seen, the long flexor tendons, superficial and deep, are passing from this area. So below these long flexor tendons and between infoscia muscles, we have a space which is known as mid-palmar space on the medial side, and on the lateral side below thenar eminence and the adductor pollicis muscle, we have a space which is known as thenar space. So we have a space known as thenar space and we have a space known as mid-palmar space. Mid-palmar space is a little bit bigger in size, just below the long flexor tendons, and it is important why, because this space is continuous in the forearm below the long flexor tendons. So infection of hand can travel back to the forearm, or infection from forearm deep to long flexor tendons can travel to the hand through this space. So these are the major spaces present in hand. So in the palmar view, you can see the mid-palmar space as well as the thenar space on the lateral side, and mid-palmar a bigger space on the medial side below long flexor tendons, and this is continuous backward with forearm below long flexor tendons. So here you can see again the same diagram, the transverse section, but what we can see here, that below palmar aponeurosis, this is palmar aponeurosis, this one. Below that you can see there are segments, and these segments contain the long flexor tendons. Superficial will be the, this will be the flexor superficialis tendon, this one, and below will be the flexor digitorum profundus tendon. So here you can see this is profundus and superficialis tendons of the third digits, you can see. And then the fibrous tissue is separating these channels, forming canals. Through these canals, which are covered by synovial membrane, synovial sheaths, as we have discussed previously. And this is adductor pollicis. This will be the space as thenar space, and this will be common space. This one, and then we can see the bones, metacarpal bones, and in between them we have dorsal as well as palmar incursion. And behind them is a extensor tendons of the dorsal side as well as the skin. So this is the same diagram showing the common flexor sheath, which is also known as ulnar bursa. So we see that all the flexor tendons, they are covered by a single synovial sheath, and this synovial sheath, flexor sheath, is known as ulnar bursa. You can see the arrangement of flexor digitorum profundus tendons, which are deep, and flexor digitorum superficialis, two are superficial and two are deep, and how they are arranged in the wrist area, and then they move forward, and then they split and spread out into four superficial and four superficialis and four deep tendons. They again are covered by the same synovial membrane, and we name it as common flexor sheath or ulnar bursa. On the other side, the tendon of flexor pollicis longus, which is moving towards the thumb, it has its own separate synovial sheath or flexor sheath, and that is known as radial bursa. So as we have discussed, they are minimizing the friction and covering the structures, and they are overlapped by the fibrous sheaths of connective tissue, and these fibrous sheaths are either in shape of circles or in shape of crossing or cruciform. As you can see, they are crossing together the fibers, and other fibers are crossing together in the shape of circles, or they are crossing together obliquely. So this is known as annular, and this is cruciform part of the fibrous sheath, and they keep the tendons in position. And if you see here the arrangement, again you can see flexor digitorum superficialis tendon. When it reaches in the proximal phalange, it splits into two and attach on the lateral side of the middle finger, and below that gap the flexor digitorum profundum move forward and attach to the base of the distal phalanges. This is about the sun sheaths. So if we move to the fingers, what we will see the flexor tendons which are passing from below as well as the lumbricals. So these are the metacarpal bone, and this is our long. This diagram is showing long extensor tendon actually from the extensor compartment. So long extended tendons are four again for each digit, and they move forward. When they reach to the or at the level of joints, they are surrounded by dorsal digital expansions. They are known as dorsal digital expansion, and they are on the extensor side. So these are the extensor expansion of the fascia, which is keeping them in position, as you can see. And the muscle has three bands, or tendon has three bands. One is attached to the middle phalanx, and the two split ends move forward, and then they insert on the base of the distal phalanx. And these are the part of interosseous muscle, which are the muscles for the are attaching on the phalanges or bases of phalanges. This diagram is actually showing the long flexor tendons covered by dorsal expansion of fascia. It has central and lateral bands, and below you can see the flexor digitorum superficialis. Here it's split into two and attached to the middle phalanx, and flexor digitorum profundus is moving inside and then inserted on the base of the distal phalanx. And these long flexor tendons are supported by connective tissue units, and these connective tissue units which are connecting these long flexor tendons or keeping them in position with the phalanges, they are known as vincula longa and vincula brevia. Vincula longa is a long connective tissue band, and vincula brevia is a small connective tissue band. Here also you can see the long flexor tendon, extensor tendon, and here you can see the lumbrical as well as you can see the interosseous, which are going to attach to the fingers. Here we can see the metacarpophalangeal joints as well as the interphalangeal joints. As we have seen, these joints are covered by capsules, and they are connected together by deep transverse metacarpal ligaments on the deeper side, and superficially they are connected through the palmar ligaments which support or which keep them in their position, along with the collateral ligaments which are present on the lateral aspect of these joints. These are ellipsoid type of joints, a condylite type of joints already we discussed, and these are in type of joints. Here you can see the collateral ligament which is attached on the lateral aspect of the joint. This is a metacarpophalangeal joint, and this is interphalangeal joint, and these are the collateral ligaments which are keeping them in position while we are moving them or flexing them. So the main function of lumbricals is movement at the metacarpophalangeal joint, and the interphalangeal joints are moved by long flexor tendons. This is another diagram showing the same movements, arrangement of the extensor band, extensor digital expansion, extensor tendon, and below we have superficial anterior muscle with the lumbrical and interosseous muscles attached there, and how the fingers are moved together. So contraction of these muscles, lumbricals and crochet, will cause flexion of metacarpophalangeal joint, and they will keep the extension of interphalangeal joint. So this is the major movement of lumbricals, mainly flexion of metacarpophalangeal joint and extension of interphalangeal joint. So this movement is, for the function of this movement, is to lumbricals mainly. Already you have talked about the transverse carpal ligament, that between the carpal bones just at the wrist we have a band which is known as transverse carpal ligament, and it make a space below that is make, or we name it as a tunnel through which the long fiber tendons are passing. So this tunnel of the bones is known as carpal tunnel. You can see here these are the carpal bones, and they are connected together by a band of fascia which is known as flexor retinaculum. So presence of this retinaculum make a tunnel shaped structure between this gap of carpal bones and flexor retinaculum, and below that we have long flexor tendons are passing along with a very important tendon of flexor pollicis longus, and the most important nerve which is known as median nerve. So compression of this nerve is known as carpal tunnel syndrome. You will have already discussed, I think, in detail, and later on we will again discuss about carpal tunnel syndrome. That if this nerve is compressed in this area, damage to occur, structures which are supplied by median nerve. So this is the carpal tunnel, and the palmar longus tendon is superficial to it, ulnar artery and ulnar nerve is superficial to carpal tunnel. Only the median nerve is passing below that with long flexor tendons and flexor pollicis. Then we have the carpal bones, and back to the carpal bones are the extensor digitorum tendons as well as the other extensor tendons of the dorsal side of hand that are divisible into compartments. You will see in the other. These are extensor retinaculum on the dorsal side, and below that we can see that most of the tendons have their own synovial sheaths, but the extensor tendon has its own synovial sheath, so we divide them into different compartments. Compartment 1 contains extensor pollicis brevis and adductor pollicis longus tendons. Compartment 2 contains extensor carpi radialis, longus and brevis. Compartment 3 contains extensor pollicis. Compartment 4 contains extensor indicis for the index finger as well as extensor digitorum. Fifth will contain extensor digiti minimi, and sixth will contain extensor carpi ulnari. So these are the compartments which are formed by the fibrous septa in between them, and they have their own synovial sheath. So here you can also appreciate the compartment. The first compartment, extensor pollicis brevis and adductor pollicis longus. Second compartment, extensor carpi radialis and longus. Third compartment, extensor pollicis longus. Fourth compartment, extensor digitorum, 4 tendons and extensor indicis for the index finger. Then extensor digiti minimi in the fifth and extensor carpi ulnaris in the sixth compartment. And they have their own extension covering sheets of constitutive tissue along the synovial. Now this diagram is showing the finger, and what else along with the tendons we have. You can see that the pulp of the finger, or the terminal part of the finger, has a nail on the upper side, and they have the fatty tissue below, the adipose tissue, along with the musculature and a lot of nerves and arteries. These fatty tissue are separated by fibrous septa, making this area very firm, and they are firmly adherent to the underlying skin. So infection of any of this area is very painful because they have five septa, so there is less space for the growth of the infection. Compression causes too much pain. On the other side, the whole area of the nail which we see is known as body of the nail. Then where the nail is lying on the finger, that is known as nail bed. Its posterior part, which is a little bit whitish, known as luneal, and where it is attached to the skin, that part is known as cuticle, and the nail is extending underlying the skin, that is known as nail root. That are the part of it. In a section you can see is the body of the nail, and this is the nail bed. Below that you can see some fatty tissue and blood vessels, then distal phalanx, and then you can see fibrous septa, and in between them is the adipose tissue. So these fibrous septa are keeping it or make it a lot of spaces or pulp spaces along with the nerve and vessels, and because they are very tightly packed together, so infection causes too much pain over here. And here you can see the dorsal digital arteries and nerves and palmar arteries are moving forward as nerves and forward and supplying. So in the other lecture of neurovascular supply of hand, you will discuss all these in detail. Thank you very much. If you have any question, please ask on me. Thank you very much.